Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we've got an interesting one. Might look not so interesting, but that's only to the untrained eye, in other words. Including myself, basically, because I'm not too familiar with these. Got a pair of Red Wings here. For those of you who are huge Red Wing followers, this is the model number 4584. So this is particularly a model that Marcus told me that J. Crew collaborated with Red Wing in some form or way to do a specific type of finish on it. And we're going to be doing a number of things on it. So come join us, check it out, and see a very rare find, apparently. Again, I say apparently because there's so many shoes out there and I can't keep track of them myself. And apparently this is a very special one here. So for all you Red Wing fans, you know what this is. You know exactly what it is. I'm just learning about it. So join us and check it out. So again, thank you everyone for joining us, and like I said, this is kind of an interesting one. Now Marcus has already cleaned these up. I will post at the end the pictures of before that he has taken of these, but we're going to be opening them up because after we're done resoling, obviously we need to do some additional final touches because they were fairly dried out. So we're going to undo the beautiful leather laces that he put in there. You know, leather laces in a boot, it's actually looks really nice. Now I kind of want to do that for one of my boots. I didn't bother with that because leather laces are a little bit more of a pain when it comes to tying them, but if you do that perfect knot, you might not ever have to mess with it again. Marcus, this is my bad. You're good. You had to get them beautiful pictures up. And it took me a while to finally get around to them. I've got another really big project that is taking a couple of months to do, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that one. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell icon as well if you are wanting to see huge project. I mean huge. This has got to be the biggest project when it comes to any cobbler in the world, and I'm stuck doing it. It's going to take a few months, but it's going to be very interesting. Marcus is laughing back there because he knows exactly what it is, and only a small handful of people even know what it is, or at least kind of may somewhat know what's going on. But anyways, for these, what we're doing now, these have the Nitrolite Sole. Nitrolite Sole is it called, right?
Cork light, or nitrile cork.
Nitrile cork. All right, keep forgetting. But I guess a lot of people like this sole. I'm going to see if I can get my hands on it. A perfect alternative to this sole actually is the Vibram 700 in the brown color, which also has cork in it, but it does have a little bit of tread on there, just a little bit. So if any of you are wanting a cork feel, that's a perfect sole for you. Otherwise, in the meantime, I've got a few ideas in mind that we're hoping to bring. So maybe by the time this video is up and you're watching this, you can check it out on our website, again at CobblersPlusCO. But for now, we're going to start by breaking these down. Let me readjust all the camera angles and everything like that and start breaking it down, and we'll talk some more about it. All right, so we've got these on here and we'll start breaking it down. But just to kind of give you a perspective of what we are doing for these, we are completely recrafting them. So we are going to be obviously resoling them. The gentleman had requested to do a brown Dainite sole on these. Now with the Dainites, and I don't have the right size here with me, but I just grabbed one to show you, they've got these pegs. Now we're going to be trying to do the best we can to fit them always, but sometimes obviously these pegs just don't line up just right. So worst case scenario, we may end up having to channel a little bit through one of these back pegs here just a little bit. So I'm just kind of giving you almost like a full disclosure on that, because I've had that happen with some types of boots and shoes out there before where there's just nothing that could be done. Doesn't matter how much you want to line it up, but like certain shoes, we already know well enough that the Dainite sole fits phenomenally on it, and then there's some of those that just, they don't cooperate. Looks like some of these nails are coming up a little bit on this back end. I'm going to hang on to just one heel and carefully put it up here so it does not stab me or get in my way anywhere. We'll go ahead. Okay, I'm probably going to grab my heel pry a little bit first to split it. Usually these cut very easily, but I guess this collaboration made these a little bit more glued or something. Just want to open up a little bit there. I don't really do this often, just like pre-opening it, but this one, as soon as I put that knife there in between the welt and the midsole, because these do have a midsole on them, or do they? No, that's just the sole. So it's actually the welt and the sole. The reason why they can do it with this particular rubber sole is because it's actually a little bit denser. It's not as flexible as most rubber soles out there. I'll show you in just a second as soon as I get to this back end here. But if you take this sole here, it's very flimsy. I mean, you hold the back end and the whole thing just kind of flops over like that. So very flimsy. These are usually a little bit on the tougher side. They don't flex as easily, which is a good thing. I know everyone thinks, oh, flexibility is good. No, it's not, because it reduces the strain that goes to your toes when they're being bent if the sole's a little bit denser. That's why leather's really good for that, because leather's a little bit denser naturally. So, but since we are going to be putting on the Dainite soles, we will be putting on a leather midsole for this gentleman. You don't always have to do a leather midsole. You got to keep in mind also, if your plan is that these are going to be work boots, you're going to be taking them out to the ranch or outdoors or something, the environment can potentially become damaging to leather, and it's easier to take care of the tops of the leather, but the midsole is a different story. So you know, you have to kind of keep that in mind when picking out a midsole. Otherwise, if your plan is just to hammer away at these boots and wear them in, you know, work, like construction work, or out at the ranch or hiking or whatever it may be, you may want to consider using a composite midsole. It's a little more cost efficient. It's just like a few bucks difference basically, versus the leather or the composite basically. But all right, so we've got the sole split. So this is a 270-degree welt on these. They usually standard come. They get stitched. So we got the heel right here and get stitched from here all the way around to the opposite side right there. So this back end does not get stitched down. That's where these nails here come into play. Probably should not be trying to poke at them with my knife. Dull up my knife that way. But gotta pry that up. Yeah, Red Wings are one of those boots that I actually enjoy working on. They're very smooth, very easy. From a cobbler standpoint, it's like butter. Very easy to work on, very few problems that would come across. And yeah, but just to give you some perspective, this one's already bending anyways because of the shape of it, but overall, see, it's not as flimsy. I mean, it's still flexible, but not quite as flexible. I mean, let's see, give you an idea. Just trying to bend it, or the wave test. We gotta do the wave test. I could do it, but I gotta actually work on the wave test for this one. Or the Dainite. Ooh. There you go. Gives you an idea that nitro cork. Marcus just left already for the day, so can't double check what the name is, but nitro light cork or nitro cork sole. It's got a little more density to it. But you can see how worn out everything is. That cork is done for. But we are going to be replacing, there it is. We're going to be replacing the footbed in these as well. So, like I said, full recraft. We need new welts, new everything. But we still need to save the old stuff to be able to trace. I gotta get this nail out real quick. Just doesn't poke me. We're gonna use all the soles and everything to trace out and try to make sure everything is as lined up as possible. Okay. Take off this heel rand. Always mess up on the names. Just about everything. Surprised I don't mess up my kids' names, considering I mess up names on everything else. But the heel rand. Basically, there's a few names for it, but it's this little piece right here that comes around there, and they put that in for a couple of reasons. Sorry, I got interrupted there, but where was I? So this heel rand here is something that just sits on the back end of 270-degree welts when they're not stitched all the way around on the back end. And it sits right here like that there, and it acts as a perfect guide to be able to trim out the heels just right. It acts as a good buffer between the sole and the upper, and is a good gripping material for running nails through it versus just running nails into the boot directly a lot of times too. So if you have a nail that ends up, you know, going through the heel rand a little bit, that's fine, but it adds additional stability, in other words, too. So these are very important. Majority of them are a fiberboard one that are put on there, like this one here, but we're probably going to go ahead and replace that, so gotta make sure I keep it. However, before I just toss it, I gotta make sure I write which one's which, because shoes are different between left and right sometimes too, because there's still a handmade aspect to a lot of these Goodyear welted boots and shoes out there. So we got left. All right, left there. Now heads up, this one's probably going to be a bit of a longer video for any of you, but again, this one's a bit more of a full reconstruction. A lot of dog hair. Thankfully the shank is still intact, but we're going to have to clean that up and stuff and get that rust taken care of as well. That's one of those things where definitely want taken care of, but there's a lot of dog hair in there. So thankfully there is no allergies on my end when it comes to dogs. If you've seen some of my earliest videos, I used to have my pup coming in, Titan. Unfortunately, landlords don't like him coming in here much anymore, so can't. Alright, but what I'm going to do to try to cut down on the video, basically, I've got everything shown. So I'm going to clean up this cork a bit without trying to rip too much of anything. And then what I'm doing is, see how it's already separating right here? Right there, it's all opened up, watch. Get my fingers through it. But yeah, we're going to be replacing that footbed there anyway, so it's a good thing that it's coming apart a little bit more easily. So what I'm going to do is clean up that cork a little bit, and I need to pull out those insoles. On the back end here, it's just glued down, and there's a couple of tacks, well, not a couple, but a handful of tacks that go around the perimeter of the heel that holds everything together. And that I am going to have to use the solvent to deactivate the adhesive, probably a little bit in this area here too, to make sure that ribbing or gemming is what it's called, this fabric right there, you can see it right there, doesn't end up tearing on us and everything, because we want that as a good guide for us. But let's go ahead and I'm going to get this one torn down, and I'll let you check it out and see what it's going like. Got to remove that welt too, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of work considering the fact that these are pretty dirty. After they're taken apart, then I can finally clean them up inside and out. So I'll see you back in just a little bit. Alright, so I've got a fair amount of cork cleaned up, but stuff's a little in there. Alright. Man, that footbed is rotting. It's all nasty. Alright. Let's take it out. Look at all that doggy fur. Oof. Looks like I got a chunk missing that broke off. That's what happens sometimes when they rot. Well, this gentleman actually found these pre-owned, so doing a lot for him, but I got a hole in there. Alright, so you can see how dirty those guys are there. A lot of doggy furs and everything. Okay, it's gonna get noisy with some air compressor action. Oof. There's a lot of doggy fur wanting to get in there. Look at that. Whole fur ball. Yeah, I'm gonna have to throw these in our Swedish bath for sure. Sure, get that a little bit cleaned up. I think what I'm gonna do before I continue much further as far as breakdowns and all that, including the welt, I'm gonna put it into the Swedish bath, and it's gonna make it a little bit easier. Break that chunk out of there. There it is. It's that chunk of the footbed that was all broken off there. So I'm gonna put these in the Swedish bath and let them sit there for a couple of hours before I take them out, and at least stick some softer boot trees in there. And softer boot trees meaning like they're not perfectly fit, they're still a little bit loose in there, but it's not going to make the leather try to stretch out or anything because we've got no sole and no footbed on here, but it's just enough to let everything kind of, you know, stay a little bit formed, in other words. But yeah, definitely gonna want to clean it out, but I'm gonna do it before I take off the welt because all of that is still stitched together. As soon as I undo the stitchings and everything, it's just gonna want to fall apart even more, and they're already technically falling apart on us here, but that's what we did intentionally. We took them apart. I had a piece of welt in here. I guess that's the welt we're putting on there. Yeah, sometimes I bring out a sample, and then I like being able to show physically samples. That's one of the great things. If you go to a local cobbler in person, you could actually physically request certain colors or something. But it could be done to a certain degree, I guess, if you're shipping in, if you're from out of state as well. Which, again, if you don't live in Colorado, that's where we're located, you're more than welcome to ship it in. Most of our services are listed on our site at CobblersPlusCO, so you'd be able to order online the service, print out the label, stick it all together into a box, and send it on over to us, and then we'll take it from there. And if we have any questions, we'd be giving you a call. But otherwise, if there's a more specific thing that you want done that's not listed on our site, you can always request that, you know, that we do like a special chat. In other words, if you want to send us an email, send us some photos, if you want to give us a call as well, we'll be happy to help however we can. Worst case, I mean, some of those odd jobs or less requested services we don't list on our site because they can get too complicating. Like this, for example, it's a little hard to be able to determine on a different brand of shoes, you know, full recrafts like this, because the job could be more intense than what we're doing here, or it could be a little bit easier too. So services like this, unfortunately, like the full rebuilds with new footbeds, new basically everything on them, we can't list. I mean, it's just, there's too much variables to take into consideration of, you know, what might occur, and then trying to also explain that to, or put that into words that we can type up where somebody's actually going to sit through and read all the fine details about it all to understand which option that they would need to pick is just too much. So again, cobbler industry, it's very hard for us to be able to list all of our services. We could do a number of things, not even just boot or shoe related. I mean, we've got all the equipment to do a lot of different repairs on leather goods, belts, backpacks, jackets, chaps. We get sometimes some boat covers in. We've had people bring in race car seats and stuff to get some minor repair done. We've had people bring in full chairs that we recovered with leather and stuff. That project that I'm going to be working on, that's taking a couple of months to work on, is a big one. Not even something I can even bring into the shop. I have to physically go to the person's house to do. So yeah, definitely, if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe. But otherwise, so you got to see what the whole breakdown is. For today, I'm basically done with them. After I break this one down, do the same thing to it. I'm going to clean it out a little bit more to try to get some of the dog hair out a little bit more, and then from there I'm going to go to the Swedish bath, let it sit in there for a little bit. The Swedish bath is kind of like our own shop blend. It's got desalting agents in there and certain cleaners that are a little more delicate. They don't have any solvents mixed, or the bath doesn't have any solvents mixed in there. That way it doesn't potentially damage the leather or anything. I mean, we use it on suede and it works phenomenally. But I am going to go ahead and get all that going, get these prepared. It is weekend already now for us. It's a Saturday, and we're usually closed Sundays and Mondays. And so, going to let them dry over the weekend so that when I come over on Tuesday, they are ready to continue on and all dried up, and I'm not having to deal with anything that's wet. So we'll see you guys back next week. For you, it's a second or two. For me, I'm going to have a weekend and finally relax a little bit. It's our son's birthday coming up. That kind of helps you gauge when the video is finished and when it's edited and everything. But any of you that know, our middle son Vlad, his birthday is tomorrow by the time of this recording. I'm not going to tell you the date exactly. And there goes the phone. But we'll see you back in a little bit. Alright everyone, so we're back here with these. Obviously, we've got that hole still in there. First one I got done, but I was going to show you real quick. Since we're replacing the footbed, that's what we got here. The other original footbeds I threw out. They were nasty. I don't know if I saw them in my trash can. Let me see if I can dig them out, or maybe they were to take out the trash. But give me just a second on that. Alright, I guess they're still in the trash, but look how nasty those things are. Just, gross. Just nasty. So, yeah, I had them soaking in the bath in the back. I left them overnight because I needed it to be pliable, but these are just way too hard to be able to have pliable, so I could at least trace them out. Throw that back in the trash. But by the time we got back in the morning, that bath was just black, like full black. I mean, just, it wasn't even necessarily a dark brown or anything. It was just black. Sorry, I had the air compressor cut on, but yeah, that water was nasty. And sorry about the noise in the back. Trevor's back there. He's polishing up a pair of boots. We're gonna finish out. So, are you done? Oh, okay. All right. Didn't want to cut you off if I'm recording, but hopefully you guys don't mind a little bit of noise in the background. Look good. All right. Okay, so we've got the leather ones. We cut these out. What was I showing? Cut them out of sheets of leather. And this is kind of a soling material, but it's one of the thinner ones. It's not as thick as their typical one. This is something that we would use on a lady's shoe, for example, or something more delicate. But it's the same equivalent as what gets used as the footbed inside of these Red Wings, as well as another number of other boots and shoes out there. So I just need to get this to lay in here. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze, obviously. And at this point, set it on the last here, and then make sure everything sits perfectly. I'm going to be opening it up to check to see how everything lines up. I'm going to put in glue on the gemming here and the leather itself. Still got to make sure to clean out that cork because we got to remove that welt and everything like that. And actually, I'm not doing the welt this time. Trevor's doing it. He's our welt expert in here. He's been kicking butt at those things for me because I'm not a big fan of doing welt. They take up a lot of time, and I've got so much other things lined up all the time. I've got multiple boots and shoes back here that I have to do, and Trevor's been saving my butt with that, basically, with at least the welt. But he'll take care of it. If something is wrong, you guys could judge him. He ran off to the back and like laughing, but you could judge him on that one, not me. But for now, just to give you an idea, again, I'm going to be lining everything up, just gluing it all together, and this is what it's going to look like right there. Afterwards, I'm going to run some nails on the back end here. We use tack nails. Now, most of the time, everybody sees me using these brass nails right here. They're designed to turn into a hook, basically, once they go in. Well, the brass nails, unfortunately, the heads are just way too small, and the brass is intended because it doesn't corrode like steel would. And so, You know, that's why they're used on, say, Western boots, for example, on the outside majority of the time. However, this is going to be on the inside where everything's covered up, protected, so it's not going to corrode as easily. So we're able to use these tacks here that are a steel. Now these tacks have a wider head also. That's mainly why I'm using them, because if we use a very narrow head, as you can tell how large that head is versus, let me grab one of these, versus one of these guys here. Hopefully that's on camera, but let me double check. Yes, it is. Versus those ones. See how different the heads are? This head will just tear through that upper, and it's not going to be a good day in general. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that taken care of. I got to get this glued up because I got to hand him off to Trevor afterwards. He'll get the rest taken care of, and I'll just nail it on. But that's what the finished product is going to be looking like right there and all through here. Obviously, once we've got that welt coming apart and everything, this is just kind of being held together for now. As soon as that welt starts coming off, everything's coming off. I just wanted to make sure everything fits properly and nicely in these boots before we actually pulled off the welt. Otherwise the whole thing just comes falling apart. It's just kind of like a back and forth game. First we got to make sure that footbed is fitting right before we change anything with the welt, and then once that is all sitting right, then we'll be able to take out the welt, take out whatever else we need to re-welt it, put it all back together, and then re-cork them. So before I drag this out any longer, let me get this taken care of. Trevor will get the welt done, and once we're back here, we'll continue on and talk some more about what we're doing next. So we'll see you back here in just a little bit. Alright everyone, so we've got the cork filled in. You saw me cleaning up those shanks. I did want to really try to keep those original shanks as much as possible, just because they're very durable type of shank that they used in these, which were great, and I don't want to just replace it for them. So I cleaned them up, got all that rust and everything off. I did make some new heel rands here. They're a little bit thicker right now, but I'm going to thin them out when we're sanding this back area. I just want to make sure everything is nice and flush when I use a new heel rand, and the old one, unfortunately, is just not in great shape. It's got a lot of rust. I mean, I could technically reuse them still, but we're changing out so much on these boots, we might as well do so with fresh new ones. And yeah, at this point, just gotta sand it out. I gotta work a little quick on these. This gentleman asked if he could have them done here shortly, and we had spent a lot of time already cleaning them, as you had seen, with everything going on inside and underneath, and even the shanks were rusted out. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this cure for a little bit, sand it out, and get the midsole on. We're using a leather midsole. I actually have it over here, this guy there. Go ahead and glue that guy on, and we'll be able to continue on, because we're going to be putting on a brown Dainite sole afterwards. And he has requested that it's a channel Dainite sole, so we're going to have to pre-channel it, make sure the heel bases, because these didn't actually have a heel base, they had a thicker heel, so we'll have to build up a little bit of a heel base, and then put the Dainite heel like that over top with the leather wedge in between. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and kind of show you bits and pieces throughout all of it, and take it one step at a time, but we've got to move quick, so we'll see you back in just a little. Alright everyone, so I've got these guys all stitched up and everything for now. Got the tan color up top. This is what the customer requested. He wanted tan all around. I had to do that kind of off video quick, because he's actually coming in to grab these guys, and real soon, He was hoping to get them back before a certain time, and we already took long enough with the whole cleaning. I had to really do a lot of cleaning actually on it. It was kind of crazy. So right now, because these are what is it, 270-degree welt, meaning it's not stitched all the way around. I'm gonna grab the other one so I don't have to take this one off the last. Since it only comes down to right here on the stitching, it doesn't go all the way around the back. We do have to run some nails in. Now most of the time everyone sees me using clinch nails like these, but because this is a rubber sole, I'm using ones that are a little bit different. So the difference is that one's a little bit smaller and has a flat head on it, and the other one is a round head and a little bit larger, if I can grab it right. See, a little bit of a difference there. Now the difference between the two is because the flat ones, they go into leather, where the round ones, they actually have these little grooves in them. Sorry, I got a hammer. They have these little grooves on the side. You can probably see it there. But these grooves, even though they're small, they're going to grip phenomenally in the rubber, and so they're going to clench down on that rubber much better than the other ones will. So they're kind of a must, in other words. They're not as appealing looking, I guess you can say, sadly, but do you want it to just look good, or do you want it to hold up well? And I'd rather have it hold up well. And the other thing is also, you're not going to see these nails anyways. They're going underneath the heel as well. I've got my leather pieces right here also for the heel base, since we do got to build a little bit of a heel base for these things. Those are glued up with the first coat and ready to go. I'm going to put the second coat on there. The other boot's ready to go almost too. And then I gotta sand up the Dainite heels. I've got those on the machine, but I gotta make sure I level out the heel bases to make sure everything's sitting right and not all wobbly. So I'm gonna have to work at this kind of quick and just kind of give you updates throughout the video and stuff. And sorry, air compressor turned on. But I have to work at these kind of quick so that everything cures properly and stuff, and just kind of give you updates throughout the video and let you see what it looks like. You know, majority of the bulk of the work has already been seen. A lot of this other stuff that I'm doing right now, a lot of you have seen already, done multiple times on our channel, whether it's the stitching, the sanding around the edges, the channeling, heel bases being attached. So if you're really curious about that, you can check out a lot of our previous videos and you'll be able to see that. Is that a dry spot? I'm very, very, very particular about dry spots when it comes to gluing. Like, I don't know what it is, but if you have a tiny bit of a dry spot, even just a little bit, that's a potential for a weak spot. And so call it what it is, call me a control freak about it, but it drives me nuts when I see dry spots that are just a little off, even if they're tiny. And I always have to touch them up and get after everybody here at the shop for it too, because they always leave dry spots. It drives me nuts. But too much glue is bad, too little glue is just as bad, unfortunately. Thin coats that are perfectly even, double coats on certain things. I'm very particular about that kind of stuff. But yeah, just had to kind of mention that to everybody in the video. So I've got these drying. I'm gonna have to let them sit here. I'm gonna press them together. I'm gonna run them to the sander, trim it out, level it, and then get the Dainite heels on there. And I'll kind of let you check that out once we get to that point. The other thing I'll kind of do also, and I'll let you guys at least check that out, is this corner piece here on the very edging. I'm gonna trim that up just a little bit by hand with a tool. You'll see what that looks like. It's an edge beveler, I believe that's what it's called, and I'll touch that up so there's no sharp edges or anything twisted, because during the sanding process sometimes you get these little twisted up leather sections and they don't look great. But I need to make sure I take care of that there too. So we'll see you back here in just a little bit. Alright everyone, so I've got everything sanded out. Top lifts are on. We've got nails ran in around the edges. Obviously we don't put one down center right here, because that could always go wrong at some point or another. So I've got this tool here. It's to bevel the edge, and just kind of cuts off the little lip that sticks out from that new welt there. I'm going to do this a lot of times with the new ones. Every now and then, sometimes with maybe an old welt, if we're saving the old welt. That's only if it's got a pretty sharp corner. Okay. And then after I do this all the way around, see if this thing will catch, because these corners aren't sticking out too bad necessarily. And we're going to keep the edges neutral for the gentleman, because he wanted kind of neutral all around, and he has the brown uppers and brown soles and everything on there, so give it a little bit of something that stands out. Now it's a lot easier, obviously, always to change it from a light color to a darker color. So if he looks at him when he comes in to pick him up and says, nah, I guess let's go ahead and make it darker, I could do that on the spot for him as well. It's not a big issue usually. This back end here is a little bit harder because this is a soling material that we used for the heel rand, and it's a little bit thicker, but there's not much anyways since I did a lot of trimming and sanding already on it. But yeah, just makes it a little bit rounder on those edges so that there's no sharp corners sticking out. And so now for the neutral, we'll use the Seraphim cream there. I already did this one. It doesn't seem like much, it's still drying. I'm gonna buff it on the machine. I'll darken it up just slightly with the waxes that are already on the buffing wheel, and then I'll put a thin wax coat of the Saphir Pate Deluxe as well, and then afterwards condition it, and we'll finally be done with these. I mean, they were an interesting one just because of how much was going on. That footbed that was originally in there, it turned our Swedish bath just black. It was crazy. I had it sitting there overnight just to soften it up, and Marcus went back there when he got in. He's like, yeah, that looks a little crazy. He thought I washed like multiple pairs of shoes in there and didn't change out the water. I was like, that is one pair of footbeds out of these. So yeah, but at this point I'll go ahead and start finishing everything out and let you see the finished product at the very can't even talk at the very end. It's been a rough day already today, so but I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. So I'm gonna let you guys go and finish up these boots and let you see everything at the very end. Alright everyone, so we darkened it up a little bit around the edges. I'm going to touch up a few little spots here and there again one last time on the buffer, but I want to condition them before I do that. But for now, I got to get the little heel pads inside. Usually they go in anyways to cover up the nails and everything, because there's always going to be little nail heads, or the clinch nails are going to be curved inside, and they usually don't stick up, but this is as an extra precaution to put in. So I've got some veg tan leather here. You have the option if you want to put a little bit of padding there, but we're trying to restore them a little bit more towards like an original build, in other words. And so grab some veg tan leather, punch a little Cobblers Plus logo on there because we can't punch it on Dainite obviously. And I'm going to go ahead and skive these. This is actually something that factories don't do, is skiving that little corner piece here. I should probably sharpen up this knife after this here because it's getting a little dulled out there. Having a nice little skived area there instead of that ridge, you're not going to feel it as much. You sometimes might notice that in a pair of Red Wings and other brands, that if they have one of these little pads, you might feel a little bit of a lip right there because they don't tend to skive it often, and it takes a little while to break it in. It'll break in eventually, but you'll feel it for the first little while. And so why not do it right the first time and skive it? There are machines and tools for skiving, obviously, but there's just a little piece of leather here, and you can easily just skive it by hand. Which might be a good thing for some of you guys that like to do things yourself at home, or if you don't want to take it to a cobbler. If you pull out that little heel pad, if you got a brand new pair of Red Wings or other boots or shoes, and they've got that little pad, if you feel that lump, you can go ahead and pull that heel pad out completely. Take a nice sharp knife with a straight edge like that, preferably, not so much a rounded one, and just skive it like I did there. And then use a contact cement, kind of like barge rubber cement glue, and just Spread that nice and evenly and stick it in while it's wet, and just let it sit there and dry for a little while, and you'll be all set. So there we go, got that in there now. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and condition everything out, and we're pretty much almost done. Oh yeah, and then Marcus had some leather laces for these. I know leather laces are a little much, but hey, why not make them look unique, in other words, because these already are unique on their own. So we'll see you back in just a few. All right, everyone, so we got everything finished out. Beautiful pair of boots. Got the leather laces in there for them. Obviously we could swap those out. That's just, they look really nice with those. Marcus picked those out there. They're reconditioned. We ended up using the Saphir oiled leather cream there, if you're wondering about that. That's what you'd want to use. And yeah, that's about it. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll finish out the rest of this video and get these boots back to this gentleman. I'm gonna take some pictures of it, and we'll see you back in just a second.